I'm looking at a country that's got 1.2 billion people. How many Indians on social media? 100 million? 150 million?
100.
100?
On internet.
Oh, on social media.
On social, 33, 34. On Facebook, it's 38 million.
Okay, so I take a subset of that, 50 million, and we got what, 400 people here at the conference. So we are truly looking at the front row of what's going to happen with this country. What, 2, 5, 10 years from now? So a little bit intimidating, but so you've had a lot to hear over the last couple of days. A lot of good stuff, right? Part of the intrigue for me coming here was I knew the speakers were so good, and so part of my failing of not being here earlier is I missed out on probably some pretty good content. It felt like a little bit like Amazing Race Bangalore. Everybody see the show?
Yeah.
So I had 2 national holidays to deal with. Remembrance Day in Canada. It's I want to get it right. Guna Barat holiday. Is that it? I don't know what it was, but the embassy in Canada was closed as I was trying to get a travel visa. So 5 travel sites, 5 trips to the Consul General. There's I thought I was dead for coming to this conference because there was this really stern-looking Consul General guy who had my travel visa in his hands, and I thought he wasn't going to give it, but he was playing good poker with me. So anyway, I'm here now. We got about 45 minutes. Hopefully we can rip through some of the stuff that I've written about in the book and have some questions later. I really love the setup of this conference. I don't know who had the brainstorm idea of marrying social media up with the charity at play here, but it makes me feel good being here. I haven't eaten really good Indian cuisine yet, so I'm up for recommendations at the end of this conference because I'm looking forward to that. The speakers are great. Sometimes you go to conferences in North America and you go, oh my lord, that guy again? You truly had great speakers here. I know that for sure. And part of something big, I saw some stats about India, social media, new media, 800 million mobile consumers. Is this the right stat? Unbelievable. Like, when I think about, and I'm guessing not all those people are smartphone enabled or iPad enabled. We're probably looking at some basic stuff. But as they get the new technology, I mean, your social media is just going to go through the roof, right? Some other stats I saw were, I think about 15% of people on LinkedIn outside the US are in this country. Are you guys LinkedIn like crazy here? Okay, that's what I thought. And the other stat, the other one I'm not too sure if I'm distressed about, but something like 15 million Indians are currently looking for their next wedding partner on Facebook. Whatever happened to arranged marriages? What's going on? So, part of something big. Now, Canada never finishes first in anything. I'm Canadian. Americans think I sound Canadian. Canadians think I sound American. I am Canadian. We're never first in anything. I looked at the number of medals that we win in the Olympics. We only have about 20% of our medals have been gold. So we always finish in 3rd place, and we love it as Canadians, right? Well, just the other day, I was jumping on a flight here. Futurebrand said Canada is the #1 brand in the world. And not only that, Justin Bieber is Canadian as well. The Beach rocks here. You know what? I don't like the music, but he is the 2nd guy on Twitter behind Lady Gaga. So I'm going to take a little bit of credit for that. The other thing is we love this stuff. There's going to be some group interaction here, but here's some stats about Canada. We live off this stuff. For those that either know Canada or don't know Canada, why the heck do we love social and online so much? So anyway, it's really cool. My other proof is I think Norway and Finland are #2 and #3 on this stuff. So, you can stay inside in winter. Now, there's only about 3% of us in the world that are blonde. I'm part of the Small Blonde Guild Society. We're all trying to clean up our own pocket of the world, whether it's bad British cuisine, U.S. soccer, maybe bad spies around the world. Some people have said at the right angle, I look like Matt Damon on a really good day. I'm just trying to clean up bad marketing and digital practice. That's my shtick. I work a lot with Don Tapscott. Does anybody know the book Wikinomics? Apparently it plays very well here. So certainly he's been a mentor of ours, and 5 years after he wrote his book, we wrote the marketing and sales and customer service version of Wikinomics. And it's all about participation winning. And so, as mentioned, we went out and we interviewed top 100 brands that we thought were doing a great job in the world, and we came up with a simple 10-step roadmap in terms of how to do this stuff. And the one thing I'd say, based on what I've heard earlier, everybody loves the tools here. You guys are tool crazy. I think half the questions I heard was, is there a tool that you could use for that? And I gotta tell you, if we were in this room 3 years ago, we would be talking about how great MySpace was and how we could have an app for MySpace. How valuable do you think those apps for MySpace are nowadays? Not too valuable, right? So I'm going to try to stay away from the tools. I'll gladly talk with them afterward. But yeah, there's a ton of tools out there. What I want to get at is there's a cultural thing going on here that's different. I think it's different in nearly every country I'm dealing with. Modern brand history, for those marketers out there, here's the history lesson. We've only had about 150 years of what brands have really been doing, and what a brand used to represent is something you bought or trusted or wanted or preferred or loved. Truly, if you're a good marketer nowadays, you better be delivering on the last one, having your customers have a forum to participate in. And I know that may seem motherhoody, but think about how many great India brands out there do you look at and go, wow, they're really delivering on that last one. I'm going to look to you on this one. How many great Indian brands are delivering on participation and engagement? If we're really honest about it. Less than 25. Okay, that would probably be a good number too. Certainly in Canada, I'd say it's probably less than 15, maybe 10. So,
I'm generous here.
Yeah. Now, where is it? There we are. Come up here. So, does anybody know Movember?
Yeah.
So, at least in a lot of English-speaking countries, it's guys growing mustaches for prostate cancer. And so, the great ingenious thing about this thing is, you and me could spend an entire day on a golf course, not saying more than 10 words to each other, and we'd go back home to our girlfriends or wives and say, that was a great time I had. We don't talk to each other, man. So it's great, this thing, we grow mustaches. And I look at my friend here. Look at it. I want somebody to take a picture, because I've been growing this for like 12 days. I will never get to that level. That's unbelievable. Anyway, a bunch of drunk Aussies back in 2003 said, let's bring back the stash. They love Magnum PI. I don't know who else they liked. And they haven't spent $1 on traditional advertising or media. They haven't spent $1 on traditional research. Lo and behold, there'll be about 500,000 people around the world this month growing a mustache in support of prostate cancer. And who says social media, digital media can't raise money? They'll be raising about $100 million across the world. And I know in Canada alone, so we're their digital agency in Canada, we grew their social media engagement last year 6 times. We also grew their funding by 3. So I'm here to tell you, you can grow money online. It's usually not A equals B, it's usually A equals B equals C equals D, and then you get E money at the end, but certainly you can. So I knew you guys would be tired. People are reeling on the chair like Mike Tyson over here going up. We got half an hour, I'll make it through this conference. So anybody who works for their company in new media, social media, stand up. And I did this in Hungary, and there was only like 8 people that stood up, and the moment they saw 8 people in this room of 500 people, the 8 people stood back down again. So I love the brave people that stand up, all right? So these are the people here that do social media for their company. Now keep standing if you want your digital efforts to be awesome. Maybe average is okay, maybe just decent's fine. Anybody sit down there? All right, we're still go? And you want your customers to rave about you. Keep stand down if you don't want your customers to rave about you. All right? Now here's the tricky one. Keep standing if you've currently achieved awesomeness and raving lunacy via your new digital media, social media. All right, I want to see the brave few that are arrogant enough to tell me what they're great. Oh, they're just falling like flies right now. They're falling like flies. No, you're either up or down. All right, I want to know quickly. What was it?
I launched a page for my NGO, and
and it went crazy.
Yeah, it went crazy.
Okay.
It's going crazy.
Well, we started out not expecting anything, and we now get an average of 50 recommends every Friday.
I'd say that does it, sure.
So we run a group which was nothing in January. Now we are 927 members on the group, but I feel we still do also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I love these stories. We'll go one more, and then we got drinks afterwards. So.
I manage the HBO India social media page.
Yeah.
And when we signed up the contract with them, they basically told us, promise that we will be the largest Facebook community or the largest social media community, and we will double the number that you're asking for. I got too scared, didn't take it. They are the largest Facebook community or social media community.
Nice. I feel like we got a Tony Robbins moment here. You want to step on the hot goals here together? That's an awesome. All right. Thank you for participating in the. At least we stretched our legs a little bit. All right, so hopefully over the next, like, what, half an hour we'll go through 3 big paradoxes. Hopefully what I'm going to say is going to make you squeamish and uncomfortable, because I think it's true, and I don't think a lot of it gets played in terms of airing. 6 key benefits in terms of Wikibranding, and the 10 things absolutely to get right. Certainly when we interview these companies, these were the 10 things that they are doing great, okay? And if we have time, Q&A at the end. So, 3 very uncomfortable paradoxes about digital social media. First of all, who here hates the term social media? Okay, it's strange that I'm at a conference that's all about social media. I'm about to tell you I hate the term social media. I mean, it's a great tool. Don't be tool crazy. It's a great tool for business organizations, not-for-profits, whoever you are. The tools keep changing, and it's great. You know, certainly in certain parts of the world, we're spending about 15 minutes of every digital hour on social media. If that number doubles in a span of 4 years, by the time 2015 rolls around, this will be by far the most dominant media mechanism in online. As I said, technology is only 20% of the deal. I'm actually working on a project now where we're trying to define what do we think the top 200 social sites are. So I'll be interested in what you guys have to say in terms of an India perspective. But you know what? This is only part of it. And certainly if you're in a big company, you know how it is. It's like if you're the only guy responsible for this or in charge of this or really passionate about this, it's tough as nails to get a company of more than 20 people turned around and actually using this to your advantage. So there's a cultural change here. That's one of the big things I want to get across. You know, this is culturally very different. You know, do you think your companies have actually fully embraced what this is all about? I can think of very few. I'd say that number is probably 1%. And certainly one of the first questions I ask when I sell projects into a company, one of the first questions I ask is, the first time you're going to get a criticism, what's your CEO going to think? And that's usually my telltale sign on whether a company's ready or not. The CEO is going to go crazy? Probably not. And more importantly, I got to tell you, if anybody's in a startup out there and can marry new social media with reinventing these 5 industries, they're going to make a lot of money. All right? Because if I look at social media as a business entity, the whole pie right now is about $20 billion. That's not a bad number. You know, I'd like to have some of those apples. But look at these industries. Think about how new media can be matched up in different forms and reinvent an entire industry. And certainly one of the big ones, I think, over the next 5 to 10 years, education. You know, we cannot afford to educate our students anymore. So, you know, why can't I get the best teachers operating across distances? I even saw a stat the other day that students educated online are actually getting better grades than the ones educated in real-life classrooms. Pretty sobering stuff. Okay? Second thing, is business really good at this? I think I've already showed you my bias here. They talk a good game, right? 70% of business people, and we're talking executives, say, within the next decade, all this stuff will have more influence than traditional media influence. I thought that was quite interesting. What's the number one reason why they say, I got to get in this game now? What's the number one reason? There's a ball for somebody here who gets the number one reason.
If I don't get into it, my competitors will get into it.
Yeah, you know what? It's probably one of the best ways to sell it in, right? Your arch enemy across the road is doing it. You better do it too.
It's a brand.
I can't give it to you though.
It's a brand that talks. It's a brand that talks about.
Yep. So, say more on that?
I would like to tell it's a brand that talks about it for the particular product or these things over the entire channels. And stating that if I'm not getting now, I'm not going to get never.
So it's like it's a totally new medium that if I'm not there, I'm not going to get, you know, that audience, I guess?
Yes.
Okay. It's a good one. Not there yet. This one shocked me. Honestly, we interviewed 300 people. The number one thing, most of the other things on the list didn't shock me. We did this survey 3 years in a row. This one had fallen way down the list in previous years. This one popped up at the top. Anybody want to take a guess?
Because some annoying consultant told me?
That's definitely down the
I was
list.
referring to myself.
No, your stuff's good, so.
Because everybody's doing it?
Everybody's doing it, yeah? You see the scoreboard watching?
Because there's money. There is.
They won't say that yet, right?
Possibly we might.
Everybody thinks it's cheap.
No.
Because of recession and all, people want to do whatever they can to increase their revenue and they have got. They don't want to leave anything aside.
These are all good answers, and I'm sure somewhere on this list they were. Do you want me to put us all out of our collective misery here?
Is there on it?
What's this?
Because they're using it on
Their kids are on it.
Man, now we're getting violent with our answers. It's like, I know this is #1. Here we go. I'm going to put us all out of the misery. I haven't heard it yet. The background picture should have been somewhat suggestive. The need for authenticity and transparency with our relationships. Do we believe that?
Yes.
I mean, I love this. People are starting to get it now. Business is starting to get what this game's all about. Like, I would have for sure thought #2, #3, and you guys mentioned a lot of that. But #1 totally spooked me. I'm like, wow, maybe we're further along than I thought. Here's why we're bad. Half of us don't have a strategy to tap into this stuff. About 80% of us don't have a policy to tap into this stuff. 53% don't have a full-time person in charge of this stuff. I call it the intern role. Yeah, he's 22. He does a lot of digital. Let's put him in charge of it. Great. You've now put your most junior person in charge of the most open form of communication with your outside audience. Great. Tragedy here. Only 14% of companies actively go out and seek those external advocates with others. Sure, they know who's in their database, but they're not going outside that database. That's not their comfort zone. And finally, we asked 50 questions. The #1 thing, and I saw a few hands earlier about people in agencies, 90% of corporate clients say, my agencies radically need to transform themselves to actually be competitive in this world. So it's either cup half full or half empty. You're that agency that gets it, or you're the agency that really needs to reinvent. And the last paradox. Who thinks brands are more important than 10 years ago? Hands up.
The question again?
Who thinks brands, the actual concept of a brand, is more important than it was a decade ago? Hands up. Who thinks that brands are less important? Who's completely ambivalent on the question, which is about 80% of you, or just tired? I'm not too sure, but I'm going to keep my energy up. So I agree with you to a certain point. People have a lot of power now. We did a study globally with Don Tapscott. These are the 8 things that the Gen Yers, which essentially are now everybody's values, are wanting out of their company. So I can summarize it in 2 points. A, they expect a lot, and when they don't get it, they're going to scream from the high heavens on Twitter or wherever. And before, remember that, I don't know if that shampoo commercial ran here. It used to say, and they told 2 people, and so on, and so on. Did that run here? Okay. Doesn't matter. Because if you're an average person on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, you have about 380 connections. So now that, and they told 2 people, is now 380 people. So that's what's happening here. So you think brands might not be as valuable? I'll tell you a different story. Certainly from a CFO standpoint, 35% of the average value of the company is associated with a brand. And that number, that gray shaded area, is going up year over year. If Facebook opened a restaurant tomorrow, would you go?
Yes.
It'd be fun, wouldn't it? It'd be a lot of poking and friending, and it'd be pretty cool. What if BMW launched a fridge tomorrow? Would you try it? Would you give it out for a test drive? Totally, right? I mean, a brand is like that thing coming through the front door that says, yeah, I know you. I'm comfortable with you. And I know I've taken some grammatical liberty here, but everybody was trained on the 4 Ps growing up, right? Price, place, promotion. What's the other one? Product, right? And, well, it should be people now, right? I think we're in the 13 E's era. So every time I talk to Don Tapscott, he says, a brand is a much more complicated thing now than I ever used to have 20, 30 years ago. And I think the thing at the top of the pyramid, do you guys agree with me? Now, the #1 thing, certainly if you're a social media marketer, is, would you recommend me to a friend or colleague? That's what you're trying to do. So our discussion about content earlier, sometimes we try to automate and roboticize everything. At the end of the day, you got to deliver on that question. Will you tell somebody else what you've just seen? And let nobody ever tell you the brands don't belong here. Average person on Facebook, I think, links up to about 7.7 brands. 85% of them want people associated with social media. And Twitter, the boy king of social media, you're 3 times more likely to click on a link that's sponsored by a brand in Twitter than anywhere else on the web. So the water's warm. Let's jump in the deep end. 6 benefits. I love this company we interviewed out of Canada. They're called Mabel's Labels. They make labels for children's clothes and lunchboxes. It's an entire company based on word of mouth and social media. And so they're using it for brand advocacy. All right, word of mouth, traffic, what have you. This is probably the most common use of social media. Brand perception, I think Molson, bit of a Canadian kind of pat in the back here. I think they're probably the best brewery in the world. From 3 years ago, from having a front page article about they sponsored the best party in Canada. Not surprisingly, unmoderated conversation, what kind of pictures show up? nakedness, people smoking out of a bong, like all this bad stuff. It shows up on the Globe and Mail. Horror story for most marketers, right? They completely reinvented themselves and actually are doing everything right within social media. So use them as a template. But perception, it was probably the first way. I love what Doritos does in terms of content. Any American football fans here? I didn't think so. Let's put it into a Cricket World Cup perspective. Although I know cricket, each game lasts like 4 days or something, doesn't it? Somebody over the next 2 days has to teach me the game of cricket and try to give me an understanding of the concept. Long story short, Super Bowl, there are 52 ads every year that air on the Super Bowl for a lot of money. Doritos goes out every year and says, give us your best ads, customers. Every single year for the last 3 years they've done it. That customer-generated ad is either being number 1, number 2, or number 3 in terms of creativity and recall. So sure, there's a ton of dreck out there, but amongst all that dreck, there's a ton of really good stuff from your customers. Brand insight, I love how Mountain Dew, this is probably the most underestimated benefit in terms of using social media, learning from your customers. Mountain Dew launches its new beverages based on what people choose in terms of their best flavors. Brand support, I'll give you a stat for the finance people in the room. We interviewed a whole bunch of companies. The average of companies that said they're getting great benefits from customer support in social media, it costs 40 times less for a customer to answer another customer's question than to actually staff up for that person yourself. So every time you phone Comcast and say, Shauna, I hate your company, that's costing Comcast about $20, I'm guessing. To have another customer say, oh yeah, they really do suck. Well, that costs a lot less. So, and then finally, serendipity. I'm part of a judge for the Aviva Insurance. They're giving out $1 million for Canadians for different community projects. And so they've found they've totally reinvented their company. I mean, this is insurance. You can't get a more dry category than insurance, right? They've actually galvanized an entire company around the stories that are coming back in terms of how Aviva is doing a great job in the community. So we interviewed Sean O'Driscoll from Washington. He used to be in charge of Microsoft's communities, and he's right. I hate speakers that get up and say, let's just hug it out, or embrace the conversation, or like just treat people like your friends. You can't do it in big companies. You cannot staff up for 2.5 million people coming into your companies. So you need to figure out what are the top 10 things they need to be doing. What am I looking like on time, by the way?
I think about 20.
We'll be done. So focus, having a focus. Number 3 and number 4 reason why companies screw it up here. Strategy. It's not down here. It's up here in the strategy. We interviewed a guy named Simon Sinek. I don't know if anybody's seen his work. He talks about, it's a simple concentric circle, right? Why, how, what. Start with why. Have a really good reason why you want to be in this space. I can't tell you how many times I hear people getting their feet wet in whatever the newest thing is because the what. We need to build a Facebook page. We need to be on Twitter. My competitor's doing this. I need to. No. Start with the why, okay? Certainly, if your business, organization, brand, customer doesn't. You ever been on one of those couches that has one of those legs that's kind of funny? It kind of like, you can sit on it and it can work, but it kind of feels funny. That's what it feels like when I see somebody doing stuff in social media that doesn't have all 4 of these things going. In some respects, I look at Comcast and I know there's a lot of wealth created by retaining customers. But I look at a lot of the social media stuff and I go, oh my lord, like it's such a bad company. Like it's almost driving attention sometimes to something that's really, really bad. So marrying those things up. Word of mouth. Back when social media wasn't the word, I used to be the word of mouth guru of Canada. And so we've now changed to with the times, I guess. But we asked the question last year, what's the number 1 thing that drives online word of mouth? What do you think people said? It's a ball for anybody that gets it right. Maybe this ball represents a free book or something down the road. I'm not too sure.
Bad customer service.
No, this is the good stuff. So if you're going to do it good, what's going to drive your word of mouth? Free stuff.
Personalized attention.
Personalized attention. I'm thinking like strategically. It's like
Engagement.
and I may hopefully I don't ruin it. I think. So those are 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Notice how I have tools at the bottom. I almost predicted you would go all tool crazy on me today. That's the 10th most important reason. So if you use Story 5 versus Hootsuite versus Seismic versus whatever, it doesn't matter. All right, what's number one?
The reviews.
Sorry?
The reviews. What the people tell about the brand or the product.
Yeah, I mean, I would bulk that in customer experience, which is number 3. Pretty important. Sorry? I can't hear you, sorry. References, like, yeah, so the people involved, number 4.
I think it's the primary product or service experience that you have.
So it came up number, I thought for sure that was going to be number 1.
Number 1, can we trust this brand?
Can we trust this brand? You're going to be shocked by this, okay? So there's number 2, number 3, number 5, and these things kind of marketers can control a little bit, the stuff in green, but they're really stuff baked into your brand. They should be the things that drive word of mouth. Number 1, conversation-worthy idea or concept. So we still matter. I mean, in this world, if you come up with a great idea, it still matters. And one of my best things, I used to be at Procter & Gamble for 7 years, Old Spice, you couldn't give that away at a Christmas sale. All of a sudden, 2 years ago, they came up with that ad run here with Isaac Mustafa. You wish you could be me, like me, ladies.
Is this like relevance? I mean, is the brand still relevant?
Yeah, totally, right? So, great example in Canada, 1 million acts of green. Cisco could have called it the Green Ambassador Club. Instead, they called it 1 million acts of green, posed a challenge out to the audience. Not surprisingly, they completely exceeded nearly every one of their objectives. Throwing a challenge out to your customers, really interesting. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on content, but I know we talked about it a little bit earlier. I wish CEOs had that 30-second pause button before they do stuff in Twitter. They would probably retract about half the things they say, right? A lot of CEOs. Certainly I talked to a CMO of the largest bank in Canada, and he said, you know what, I'm starting to get the social media thing, Sean. It makes me suck louder in more places than ever before and faster than ever before. And I'm like, you should write my next book together, I think. Percentage of the top Twitter and Facebook profiles as judged by number of fans or followers. 81% of Twitter top 100 are people. 51% of Facebookers. And the tragedy of this is all 3 Kardashian sisters are in that number. What are those people known for? They're known for being famous, I guess, right? Very human medium. So if you wouldn't say it in real life, don't say it on the social web. And you all nod your heads, and I'm going to go to your corporate blogs, and I'm going to look at things that look like sanitized press releases as posts, right? So, other sobering fact, the average tweet lasts 12 minutes, the average Facebook post lasts 80 minutes. If you can get a day and a half out of your blog post, you're lucky. Which leads to, I'll give you the great, good, and the minimum. We looked at the top brands. They're posting about 30 times a month, at least. 400 tweets a month, 12 videos a month, 8 email newsletters a month going out to different factions. How many of you are achieving those numbers? Tough, right? So this stuff may be cheap. You're not paying media anymore, but it's certainly costing you money to staff up to actually make that content go. All right? I had a friend of mine who runs Sacred Rides. He usually has like 10, 15 people chime in on his Facebook post. He did a pseudo mountain biking infographic, 780 tweets. So if you have really bad research or a really bad idea, put it in an infographic. It really zooms on the web. Who loves infographics here? I think there's a larger point here that design actually matters in here. It used to be a great blog post matter. Now I think design is much more. And as I was mentioned earlier, not too much stuff goes viral. The 4-second test. I love the 4-second test. 99% of us judge whether we want to be on a website, Facebook page in about 4 seconds. All right? What do you think Red Bull wants us to do here? Pretty straightforward, right? They could have hid it as a link over here or whatever. No, very explicit. I won't get too far on the storytelling. Charity Water did a great thing on their 50th year anniversary. Go to YouTube, Charity Water. They had all their employees send out thank yous to all their customers. Awesome employee engagement, awesome customer engagement, right? There are 9 types of stories that are out there, though. Use one of them. I'm sure Akshaya Patra is using one of these, maybe 2 of these. I'm not too sure. Will it blend? I can't think of a better online demo than Will it blend. He's been doing it for 5 years. I love it. Every time he gets that new iPhone, 3 weeks ahead of anybody else being able to get it, and he shreds it in a blender, and the collective world goes, why? Why? And Facebook. Anybody use the new timeline yet? Anybody switch over? What do you think?
It's an interesting experience.
but I don't.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, so it's an interesting experience, but I don't know what to really make of it yet.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice from an ego perspective to sort of scroll back and see I've been there since 2006 or something like that, and all the stuff that I put out there, it's very worrying to see some of the things.
Yeah, I know it is.
Yeah,
There used to be a time and place when you put stuff on Facebook, you'd realize if nobody caught it for a day,
yeah.
now they can go back, right?
And now I'm seeing it there, and that's worrying.
Right.
But outside of that, I really don't know what to do with it. I mean, you know, it's just there and it's fun, but.
Well, I know what Facebook wants. I mean, Facebook wants real estate where they can sell ads, right? So that's now gives you not one page per person, but it gives you multiple pages over an extension of time. And so Facebook's starting to understand that it's no longer about trying to find that right person. It's trying to embed yourself in their stories and being relevant in their world. And outreach, I'll state it simply this way. Forget about chasing 1 million followers. Try to find out the real 1,000 fans that you have. Because in any situation that I've ever seen, it's usually that front part community that does the heavy lifting for you. It's not the PR person out there saying, we'd really love to have 1 million followers. It doesn't happen that way. It always happens in 2 steps. And there's a company in Canada called Lululemon that make great yoga clothing. In every single one of their store locations, they anoint about 60 different people, yoga instructors, ballet dancers, gym instructors, as their ambassadors. It's an officialized ambassador program, and that's half the reason why Lululemon sells so much. And where do you find these people? If you can't get your employees interested in your stuff, you're screwed, because you're certainly not going to go down the line and get people interested. So I'm not too sure what form that is in your company, but get your employees on site first. 12 Force, great idea. Everybody's seen this before. You know, they set this up in 2 months. Think about a big company like Best Buy doing an international project on Twitter, set it up in 2 months, and now they've answered about 30,000 different inquiries every year through all their different employees. Incentives. I'll summarize it this way. You know, why do people join things? Why do people want to become part of a brand's world online? I got 3 basic reasons, and I can boil them down really fine, but what are the 3 basic reasons? They want to... What's in it for me, I think I heard. Who said that? Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Can you catch? I don't want to throw it too hard. Nice. All right. There's a cricketer. What's in it for me, pretty much, right? What else?
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure. Keep going with it. I want to give you a ball.
Belongingness. They belong to the brand.
Yeah, I mean, you guys might have to share a ball here. They want to. Ready? Oh, sorry. I thought you were looking at me. No. They want to feel good, right? They want to feel good amongst their peers, and then if it's not feeling good, they want to look good.
Am I losing out?
I don't. I'll buy you a beer later. So the top reasons. Whatever happened to us marketers? Why can't we have more fun and enjoyment in these spaces, right? You compromise, you take the rough edges out. Let's feel good. We did a project for Big Rock. I won't show the video, but remember the Dove campaign? Remember the Dove campaign for Real Beauty? They had their users actually produce a commercial. It's hilarious. This was the 3rd prize winner when we were working. Too ugly to be in a beer commercial, and it's got him. He's got like big buck teeth, whatever. Very, very funny commercial. But Big Rock had some fun creativity. Kiva's like my awesome example here. I love donating to Kiva. I tell everybody about it. It makes me feel good. And I can see the stories of who I've invested into others. Makes me look good. Anybody know Empire Avenue? Anybody been on Empire Avenue? What do you think?
Gets totally boring after 3 days.
And don't you feel like, why am I on here too? Because it's like a stock market for narcissists, right? Like, essentially it's a stock market where if you think that individual is going to do great things in the future, you're going to invest in that person much like you'd invest in a stock. People that join it, obviously it's going to make them look good, right? Recognition by a company, though, the simple act of recognizing people, and I look at the best Twitter profiles. If you look at Whole Foods, Lululemon, which was my previous example, 80% of their tweets are recognizing what somebody else had to say or recognizing their involvement or contribution to the brand. Now, that's the formula on Twitter. Maynard's, this thing in Canada, I find it wild that through Facebook I can actually post my face And if I'm the winning face, they're these juju kind of candies, my face can be eaten by like 2 million different Canadians. Somehow it's weirdly exhilarating for me that I could have that chance, right? So people are flocking to it in droves. And the final thing is get somethings. And the undeniable reality, number 1 and number 3, receive discounts. Number 3, to get a freebie, right? Those are the great unwashed people that might want to be part of your brand. That's the reality. If you want followers, give out freebies. But they might not stay around. You know, what percentage of people that fan a Facebook page actually come back to that Facebook page ever again? Anybody know the stats? They're quite different by brands. Safely under 15%, oftentimes 2 to 3%. Right? So you fan it, you loved it once, never come back again because you got that t-shirt. Hockeyville, great example in Canada of winning, using social media to get your community to get free funding for their ice rinks. Clout, I heard Clout mentioned earlier. Who's a fan of Clout? Who's not a fan of Clout? What's the consensus reason, which I probably would have gathered if I was here earlier? Why don't we like Clout? Gaming it, boiling it down to one number. Marketers thinking it's like the holy grail, right? I actually use it. I find it a great shorthand tool. But I do it only from the standpoint, if you have a 15 and you have a 50, I'm probably going to be more inclined to like you, and if I don't have all the time and effort, I'm going to focus there. But here's an example of Clout. Rules, all I'll say about rules is get them. Most of you don't have them, or don't have good ones. The best 2, and we looked at 100 of these, I'd say 95 of these were written by lawyers. The 2 that we love was Kodak. Look at Kodak's social media tips. That's something an employee will actually read, all right? And then, sounds very Air Force-y, they've got almost like a dashboard for nearly every single situation that might be encountered. So, great for the Air Force. Tools. We asked this question, the corporate website is no longer relevant. Social networks can adequately house and deliver digital business objectives required. How many people agree with that statement, you think? Oh, okay, why don't we do show of hands here? How many people agree with the statement just mentioned? Okay, how many people don't agree? Yeah, I'm in that camp too. 90% of us, 90% of the people we polled said, no, not there yet. And one of the big reasons is social media, it's a great broadcast tool, it's a great recruitment tool. By and large, pretty bad engagement tool. I can't get my best fans engaging with me all the time on Facebook or Twitter. I can in communities or wherever else I can set up, including the corporate website. So tell me on cricket. I don't know cricket that well, I know other sports. When you play at home in cricket, do you tend to win more than if you play on the road? Okay. Feels comfortable, you get your fans on your side, right? I find way too many brands are actually taking their entire game and putting it on their away game. Facebook, other people's locations. They've almost overreacted to what advice they've been given. Build a really good home base. You know, so there's 8 different home bases. I'm not going to go through this chart, but I think I've made the website available on SlideShare, or the presentation on SlideShare. Threadless, it's one of my favorite sites in the world. It passes my 4-second test. It's great crowdsourcing. Does everybody know Threadless? I'm like the coolest guy in Toronto for buying t-shirts off Threadless. And I'm really not cool, despite the shoe comment made earlier. And it integrates so well with social media. The number 1 thing digital strategists are working on this year, so the new thing, is integrating their website and social media. So getting those +1s on the site, getting those Google Pluses on your site, crucially important for what's happening now. And the away game, right? So the natural things, social networks, micros, professional networks, videos, social bookmarks, location, ratings, and photo sharing. I'll give a prop out for craft. I don't know if anybody for craft works here. Everybody thinks social media is run by teens and early 20-somethings. I tell you, you get a whole bunch of moms online, actually galvanized around a topic, they'll take you down. I mean, there's a group of about 15 of them that live in my neighborhood. Restaurant treats them badly, that restaurant is going down, and they will love it when it actually happens. So craft, great in terms of being everywhere. I'll quickly go through these other ones. Community management. Any community managers here? I hope next year when I come back here, it'll be either a community manager or some other title, because certainly, I can keep anybody happy online for 4 weeks. It's what happens after those 4 weeks that's important, right? So they can do a whole bunch of jobs. I know Frank did a great job for Comcast. Is he doing the same job for Citi? Yeah. One thing, they got to be massive, massive content creators. So there's a lot of things you want out of your community managers. They have to be excellent, excellent, excellent at this. And certainly an awkward acronym, but the REHAHAs. If somebody can mash up those letters any differently, I'd love to hear it. But I mean, certainly if you're in the trenches, these are 7 things to actually think about.
Has hair.
What is it?
Has hair.
We'll work on it over the weekend, okay? Or,
Better be born.
the only thing I'd say, I love Mozilla is my favorite company in this space. Who uses Firefox here? Okay, I don't even know why. Oh man, whoa. I don't even know why I use Firefox sometimes. But Microsoft's got 57,000 employees. They got 70% of the world's browser share. Firefox has most of the rest, about 30%. How many employees do you think Firefox has?
70.
A little bit less than 200 people. We actually interviewed the guy in charge of Chile. He runs press conferences, he translates materials, he is the acting steward of the business in Chile, unpaid ambassador of the brand. Amazing, right? Totally community involved. Last few, life stage of the community. Any community I know worthwhile supporting lasts about 2 to 3 years before you have to completely reinvent it and blow it up. Okay? Just know that you got to plan around that. Intuit, great example. 6 years ago, they were banned from actually using any type of social media. Now, I would characterize Intuit as probably the best B2B company that's out there. And certainly, if you look at their community spaces, people love hanging out with them. Metrics, nobody cares about metrics, right? Nobody?
No, I don't have
Nobody cares about metrics, right? No. It's like top 3 thing that you always get asked. We interviewed the top 100 companies. We came up with about 46 different measures that they're using across a spectrum of different benefits, across a spectrum of either what am I doing, what's actually happening, or what's my end result. No silver bullet formula, right? These are the best companies. They're all using different stuff. I would say things are changing, which is good. Last year, this was number 1. Now it's number 3. We're starting to get, it's like not a traffic thing. This is an intimacy medium. Engagement and sentiment are higher this year. And the only thing I'd say is measure the applause, not the attendance. Good way of thinking about this stuff. Try many small testable experiments. I can learn about 30 things on Facebook in a span of a day. Just do your classic A/B testing on Facebook. You can get a lot of different information. Have goals, track them over time. Anybody that's worried about their CEO and what they think of them, 90% of the CEOs we interviewed said, I know there probably isn't a silver bullet ROI, but I want 3 things from my employees. 1, you're measuring hopefully the right stuff. 2, you're measuring it over time, and hopefully I'm seeing that number go in the right direction. And 3, somebody's reporting back to me. You fulfill those 3 conditions, I'll be more of a champion. And the last one, culture. Anybody have an 18-year-old here? Are they as unruly as our North American 18-year-olds?
Yeah, I'm doing enough.
I mean, you say 7 to 4-year-old, they can cry as much as they want. This is like 1980s marketing. They can cry as much as they want, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to live in your house. You know, you're going to have to feed them the meals. They're going to have to live by your conditions. Now, parenting an 18-year-old, different thing. Cajole them, influence them, but they're running away from home if you treat them badly. This is like a Wikibrands for Dummies slide here. Top 6 things that people get wrong in this space, okay? Surprised by the first one, listening? That seems really motherhoody, but that's what people play back. You're a bad listener, you fail in this stuff. Content, which we talked about, having strategy, having a customer, not having a culture that supports all this stuff, and measurement. 2 companies that I absolutely love. One's a Canadian company called FreshBooks. Another one's Zappos. Sorry, I have to put the Zappos slide up. A challenge to all of you. Why not have your entire employee database sitting on your website? I always find it interesting that when I go to somebody's website, you know, I can find most of your employees on LinkedIn anyway. So why not put them there? And actually, they might feel a little bit more attached to your company. So I'm going to stop there because I don't want to run too far into dinner or drinks or your weekend maybe. But if you have a couple of questions, I'm happy to take them.
We've got time for about 2 questions.
You were to mention the 10 best NGOs, I heard you saying that.
I've got 50 NGOs, I guess.
The top 10.
Just the top 10 right now? Can I send you an email? Who do I like a lot? I mean, I like American Red Cross a lot. They're one of the biggies. I mean, I'm attached to Movember. I'm a little bit biased there, but Movember is a true word of mouth success. I'll be honest, a lot of the European and Asian-based NGOs I haven't seen enough of, so I've seen some of this weekend, so I'm interested to see more. But the one thing about not-for-profits, and I do a lot of speaking with not-for-profits, you have one clearly embedded advantage. You know, I used to work on Pepto-Bismol and Metamucil. Everybody knows those brands?
Yeah.
Tough to rally a cause around a brand like that, okay? I mean, you can rally a benefit, but to get a cause around that, I mean, you already have a cause that's there. The biggest problem, I think, sometimes is twofold. One, not-for-profits don't like to take risks because they don't want to offend kind of like the least of the donors or the best of the donors, and they tend to be short-staffed, right? Do you have enough staff to do all this stuff? Yeah.
United Way is not on your list, I believe.
No, I probably wouldn't put them on the list. Although they're so local, but most of the United Ways I talk to say we're struggling with this. Part of the reason I think is United Ways, people don't know the United Way. It's like kind of a brand organization up here. United Way would do a great service to themselves if they got out behind the brand curtain and actually shared who their employees are in social media. So sorry, but I will send that list to you. Another question? Last one, I guess?
Final question.
It's for a ball. Who wants a ball? You can go back home, look like a hero.
I get to ask the question as well?
Yeah. And if you don't, then I'm taking that ball back.
You mentioned about it's difficult for brands. It's difficult to do social media like a month or 2 months or 3 months after you have been there. We see a lot of that as we look at different brands. Coming up with the first 20 or the first 50 Facebook posts for any company, I can sit here and do it in the next 20 minutes. Let me do that for a couple of months where I have done 600 of them already, and I have to do the 601st post, and I will be really sitting back and thinking. So, and I know there is a lot of social media that gets done from an engagement, from a topical standpoint, but how do you continuously identify areas for promoting brand attributes at the basic level? Not topic, I'm not talking engagement, but promoting basic brand as you go along.
Yeah, I mean, I think and you were up here, weren't you talking about, I think it feeds back to maybe one of the things that you mentioned.
But that doesn't mean I know everything.
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, I don't think people go through the exercise before they get into something of what are the top 50 blog posts I'm going to write about, what are the top 100 Facebook posts. You know, who's done that before? Seems like a great platitude, but nobody ever does that. Do it. I mean, it makes the stuff that happens afterwards so much more easier. The other thing is, you know, you said it up here, I think, it's like, this is not only a marketing thing, this is like customer service. Who's part of your squad? Because if it's the marketing thing, it's going to get stale pretty fast, right? I need to have at least 5 or 6 different parts of my operation actually creating content that allows you to actually, you know, not be talking about your promotion X, Y, Z all the time. Yeah, so those would be my top 2 things, but having a content strategy and an editorial strategy makes sense too.